Hello and welcome to the F1 Word. It's Elizabeth Blackstock, U.S. editor at planetf1.com, and I'm taking over from Sean today because there are some major questions about Cadillac's upcoming Formula One team that need discussing, particularly its driver lineup. Now, as we've touched on here before at the F1 Word, we only know a handful of things about this upcoming Cadillac endeavor. We know that former Manor Marussia boss Graham Loudon is taking over as team principal. We know that it signed its very first sponsor in Tommy Hilfiger. We also know what the Cadillac F1 logo looks like. That one wasn't really much of a surprise. But we still have absolutely no idea who Cadillac intends to sign as drivers, though the team has admitted that it's in talks with a short list of drivers that seems to keep getting longer by the day. Today, we're going to run through all the drivers that we know this 11th team has spoken to in order to get a better understanding of just how the team is approaching this challenge. Before we dig into that, let's talk about Cadillac's vision for the team. As a General Motors-backed outfit founded with funding from American financier Dan Towers, it obviously has some high aspirations in appealing to the American market, but don't expect any American drivers. Back in the team's earliest stages, there were some hints that we might end up with an American, but Graham Loudon has since clarified his goals. He wants some experienced, team-motivated drivers, ideally those who are familiar with Formula One and who can help the team find its early footing. So that's the primary metric against which we're evaluating the drivers on this shortlist today. But before we get looking into the options, I want to take a moment to point out Cadillac has already ruled out a handful of other rumored options. First up on the list is Daniel Ricciardo. Loudon recently stated that a driver like Ricciardo, who seems to have really checked out of F1, wouldn't be the right fit for Cadillac. Loudon rightfully pointed out that you want to sign a driver who's absolutely chomping at the bit to compete. And Ricciardo seems to be enjoying his retirement and would probably need some convincing to come back to Formula One. We're also counting out some drivers from American race series like IndyCar, such as Colton Herta and Pato O'Ward. O'Ward recently claimed that any links to Cadillac were just smoke and mirrors caused by media speculation, while Herta is very unlikely to secure a super license based on his IndyCar performance this year. So we've got those drivers out of the way. Let's look at who's in. We're going to talk about these drivers from the least to most likely to be signed by Cadillac, which means we're starting off with Jack Doohan. PlanetF1.com understands that Jack Doohan's father, Mick Doohan, and Cadillac team principal Graham Loudon were spotted chatting at both the Monaco and British Grand Prix, likely about a potential move. Now, a handful of sightings between a driver's dad and a team boss do not guarantee that the driver in question is actually going to end up taking one of those open seats, but it would absolutely make sense that the Doohans would try to snag a deal with Cadillac. What makes this move unlikely is the fact that Jack Doohan does not have a ton of F1 experience. The 22-year-old has only made 7 total starts with his Alpine team, with a best finish of 13th in the Chinese Grand Prix this year. After retiring from the Miami Grand Prix, Doohan was dropped from the team and replaced by Franco Colapinto. So Doohan is available, yes, but he's still effectively a rookie, and if Cadillac is truly looking for experience, it's likely looking elsewhere. That brings us to our next potential Cadillac signing, Mick Schumacher. The 26-year-old son of Formula One legend Michael Schumacher spent just 2 years in F1, making 43 starts for the Haas F1 team in 2021 and 2022. During that time, he only managed to score a total of 12 points, with a 6th place in the 2022 Austrian Grand Prix representing his very best finish. Schumacher and Haas seemed to part on pretty uncomfortable terms, and the German driver has since headed off to the FIA World Endurance Championship to compete in the hypercar class with the Alpine Endurance team. In the meantime, he's been a test driver for Alpine in Formula One, as well as a reserve driver for Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren. Plus, as a bonus, he has competed for a Ferrari customer team, which means he has some experience in competing in F1 with a Ferrari engine, which is what Cadillac will have in 2026. But, with all that being said, Schumacher has been away from F1 for quite a few years now. He has more Grand Prix experience than someone like Doohan, but that experience is going to be pretty outdated when we head into 2026. Now, I will admit that everyone is going to be starting from scratch in a certain sense next year, considering the dramatic regulation changes, but there are drivers with more recent and potentially more relevant experience that Cadillac could draw from. One such driver is Zhou Guan Yu. The Chinese racer competed for Alfa Romeo, which transitioned into the Sauber team between the start of 2022 and the end of 2024. With 68 starts, Guan Yu has way more experience behind the wheel than both Schumacher and Doohan, and that experience was admittedly pretty recent. Now, Zhou's performance did admittedly leave something to be desired, but in his defense, his team was working with some very challenging equipment. In the 3 years of F1, his best performances were 2 8th-place finishes. He snagged a total of 16 points in the course of 3 years. But Zhou does have a lot working in his favor. Again, Sauber was a Ferrari engine customer team, so he understands how that whole process works. He has recent Formula One experience compared to drivers like Mick Schumacher, but most critically, his longtime career manager is none other than Graham Loudon, incoming Cadillac team principal. That doesn't mean he is guaranteed a seat at Cadillac, of course, but it certainly is nice to cut out the middleman when it comes time to negotiate. Next on Cadillac's shortlist is a driver that Guan Yu knows very well, former Sauber teammate Valtteri Bottas. Bottas is one of 2 extremely experienced drivers that Caddy is looking at. The 35-year-old Finnish driver has racked up 10 victories and 246 starts in Formula One, competing for everyone from Williams to Mercedes to Alfa Romeo and to Sauber since he first joined the sport back in 2013. His consistency is nearly unmatched. He has seen how the efficient Mercedes team operated during its run of championships, and we cannot underestimate his skills as a test and development driver. As a bonus, he has also been taken to social media to tease a potential interest in Cadillac by stroking the interior of some Caddy road cars and praising them as having a very nice seat. He may not have the massive transcendent star power of someone like former Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton, but within the motorsport world, Bottas is beloved. If Cadillac is looking for a driver who will represent its brand well and who will know how to test its cars and to prove them, it could do a whole lot worse than Bottas. Finally, we come to the crowning driver on Cadillac's shortlist and perhaps its most likely signing, Sergio Perez. Now, there are a lot of folks out there who think Perez has had his chance in F1 and has nothing left to give, while there are others who believe he just didn't click with a Red Bull racing team that clearly prioritized his teammate Max Verstappen. But for an incoming, brand new, starting from scratch Formula One outfit, it's hard to think of a better driver than Perez on the experience front. Throughout his career, he's raced for middle-tier teams like Force India, as well as championship-dominating outfits like Red Bull, and I think that particular blend of experience is probably really important to Cadillac. I think it's easy to say, yes, there's a lot to learn from Red Bull when it comes to organizing a championship-contending race team, but we should not underestimate what Perez learned at Force India and Racing Point. There, he was competing for a team that was operating on a shoestring budget and in fact declared bankruptcy at one point. Perez jumped from there to Red Bull, which means he saw opposing ends of the F1 resource spectrum, and that makes him very qualified to advise Cadillac on what's important. As a bonus, he comes bearing ample sponsorship from his home country of Mexico, and he has a huge fan base within all of North America. There may not be a qualified driver from the United States coming to Cadillac, but we do have a driver at hand who could represent the continent very well. If you ask me to pick my ideal Cadillac F1 lineup from the drivers on this shortlist, I'd be snagging the 2 big guns here, Bottas and Perez. Between their experience and the resources they're able to bring, I think Cadillac would be really well set up to make an impressive F1 debut. I don't think we're really talking about race wins, at least not at the start, but these are the guys you want on your side as you start to get a team off the ground. They may be a little older, but that means they're coming with plenty of experience. But what do you think? Are these shortlisted drivers the cream of the crop, or are there talents out there that Cadillac has simply failed to notice? Head down to the comments and let us know. That's all from me here today at the F1 Word. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and head on over to planetf1.com for more deep dives and breaking news in the Formula One world.